One of the videos I still get comments on to this day, or more accurately, one of the series of videos, are my videos about the religious cult Shincheonji. People still ask me if I know information, if I can tell them what to do, if I know what they're up to. So what is Shincheonji up to going into 2020? And the honest answer is I don't know. I stopped paying attention to their activities several years ago, and I hear things now and then, mostly from people who comment on my videos, but honestly, I do not know what they're up to. I guarantee they're still active in Korea, and as far as I can tell from what people are telling me, they're also active in countries all over the world. Now, just a reminder, the reason I started to pay attention to them and try to expose what they were doing, their activities, their intentions, was because I came into contact with a couple of their members who tried to, I don't want to say recruit me. It's more like they invited me to take part in the activities of their front group. Nobody tried to get me to join their religion, their church, to go to church activities. And I need to be more specific about what they were actually doing and how that's different from what they may be doing today. At that time, Shincheonji did not have a presence, as far as I know, outside of Korea. They were restricted mostly just to Korea. And they didn't have a big foreigner presence either. There was just a handful of non-Korean members. And most Koreans at the time were well aware of them and their status as a religious cult. So what they did was set up a front group, which eventually turned into several different front groups. And they advertised these groups mostly in English to try to get foreigners to take part. It could just be simple activities like a picnic, an outing, some kind of games, a dance contest. They were harmless activities in themselves, and the way they were usually offered is that they were free for foreigners to take part in. The reason the cult made all these front groups and all these sort of real fake activities is because they wanted to use foreigners for their own propaganda purposes. You know, if they were advertising themselves in Korea to Koreans saying like, oh, Shincheonji is having a sports festival, Koreans would be like, well, what is the cult trying to do? Are they just trying to recruit more people to their churches? No thanks. But if they advertise it in English and then after the fact they post all these photos of foreigners from all different countries participating, and they also advertise these front groups as being dedicated to world peace, whatever that's supposed to mean, Koreans look at that and they're like, well, I don't know who these groups are and I don't know who these foreigners are, but if all these foreigners from all these different countries are taking part in these activities, maybe there's something legitimate to these groups. That was really the only point of trying to get these foreigners to participate, is to get more legitimacy through the propaganda. And if you think about it, it was kind of smart, except for the fact that they were exposed. There were a few obvious tells. One is that there is no mention of who's paying for it, why it's free, if there's any kind of donations involved and what they would go toward. And the goal of world peace is very vague, and there were no specifics, no mention about how they're going to accomplish this other than holding these events and talking about world peace. It's not that their Korean to English translations were bad, it's just how the English speakers expressed their objectives in English was just weird and cult-like, and made all their activities sound very shady and illegitimate. So as far as I know, since we exposed them back in 2012, 2013, they've stopped doing that in Korea. As far as I know, in Korea, Shincheonji is for Koreans, and for better or worse, that's how it is. But like I said, they've been spreading to other countries, trying to recruit citizens of those countries to join their churches in those countries. So in order to talk about my feelings about that, I need to go on a bit of a tangent. I'll come back around. It should be of no surprise to anyone who's seen my videos that I'm an atheist. I never really talk about religion other than when I'm calling out cults. I was born atheist, as literally everybody is. Nobody is born with a religion. But I was raised without a religion, and I grew up without a religion, and I never had any reason to be religious or to want to join a religion. I was not particularly anti-theist until around this Shincheonji stuff. In a way, I kind of envied some of my atheist friends who had grown up being indoctrinated in religion, so when they eventually broke out, it was a very personal bitterness for them, and they were kind of aggressive in their atheism because they knew personally and from existing friends and family how much it can hurt people. But around the time I got exposed to cults and the religious stuff, I was more engaged in kind of an anti-theist attitude, and I would watch a lot of atheist videos or videos about atheists calling out, responding to religious videos on YouTube. There are plenty of people who practice their religion. They don't harm people, they don't believe harmful things, and I guess it just gives them a greater sense of community and happiness in their life, and that's fine as far as that goes. But it also has the real ability to harm people, to make them believe things that aren't true, to the extent that, they can deny themselves medicine and hope that prayer can heal them. So I watched these atheist YouTube channels to try to validate my own feelings and hear other people say the things that I was feeling and concerned about. And one thing I have noticed, especially over time, is that I've noticed more formerly religious people convert to atheism. They express it in the comments of these YouTube videos. Sometimes they call in, like the atheist experience. They always get callers who were formerly religious and they're still dealing with friends and family who are religious, or they're dealing with beliefs they can't quite let go of, or sometimes they call in and they are still religious but they're kind of on the verge of giving it up, and during the phone call they give it up. But I have never noticed non-believers get hooked by these religious YouTube channels which exist. I feel like religious YouTube channels are just there for people who are already religious. And my point, getting back to Shincheonji, is I feel like the internet is a very bad recruiting tool for the religious, for any religious group. I feel like my videos about Shincheonji have only served to expose them and to help people break away from them. I don't think anybody has been converted to them thanks to my videos, and I don't know that people watch Shincheonji videos and get converted. And what I'm saying is the best way for any religious group or person to convert other people to the religion is to do so in person. And that is why Shincheonji is sending its members to other countries and starting up churches there and trying to convert people in those countries in person. Because as soon as people find out what Shincheonji is, they search for them on the internet and they find videos like mine. And information is very rarely the friend of religion. Now, the distressing thing about the kind of people they try to recruit to their churches is they go after people who are already religious and already part of, I guess, a more mainstream religion. So let's say it's somebody who's read the Bible and they either don't fully understand the Bible or they understand it, but some parts aren't quite as satisfying for them. And Shincheonji says, hey, we read and understand the Bible in this particular way. We can make more sense of it for you and give you greater meaning to your life. So people to whom faith is an important part of their everyday life, or who are, I hate to say it this way, but who are kind of gullible, are more easily attracted by these cult members. So I have a lot of people contacting me like, I was into my own religion and then I met these other people and they tried to get me to join their Shincheonji group. Then I found out what it was and I don't know what to do. And I don't have a lot of good advice to tell those people. I can't say like, your first religion was the better one, that one's more legitimate, that one's more valid. That's not something I can say with any good conscience. I even get comments from Shincheonji members saying, well, you can only judge Shincheonji by reading the Bible and then judging how Shincheonji interprets the Bible and see who's correct. I don't care what the Bible says. If any group correctly interpreted the Bible and had figured out the meaning of life and the best way to live, there would be no disagreement. These things would be obvious to everyone. We wouldn't be talking about religion or faith or beliefs anymore. We'd be talking about facts, but those do not exist with regard to religion. Yes, I'm coming out kind of strong here from an atheist position, but when people bring these concerns to me or these types of positions or arguments, I don't have advice for them because this is my position. I can't say, no, don't believe this thing that you can't prove or provide evidence for. Believe this other thing that you can't prove or provide evidence for. For me, there is not a great deal of difference between a mainstream religion and a cult religion. I can say Shincheonji is a cult because of the way it tries to deceive people. It tries to get people to join its group without saying up front what the group is about. I've heard that people haven't even heard the name Shincheonji until 9 months after they've already been in the Bible study groups. There's the whole thing about the front groups, which is deceptive. There's all the lies about wanting world peace and whatever. I mean, I can respect mainstream religions and friends who are religious with regard to mainstream churches by saying like, hey, do you want to join me at my church? It's honest, it's upfront, there's no deception involved, and they're fine with me saying yes or no, and they'll still be my friend. But on the whole, I think the world would be a bit better without the risk of any of these things, because I can say from personal experience that it's quite possible to go through life and enjoy life without having any religion.